Go over to 1. All right, guys, how you doing? 4 o'clock, day 2. At least it's not day 3. I don't mind doing later sessions because I'm usually so hyper that I almost fall off the stage most of the time. So they like to put me at, this time of day so you guys all wake up. I think it's just because I'm a loudmouth Italian. So my name is Beth Massey. I am a senior program manager on the Visual Studio team, on a sub-team of Visual Studio called Cloud Platform Tools. We do a lot of tools inside of Visual Studio. I'm actually really excited about a lot of the stuff that our team has done today. Our team is in charge of the managed languages, which was awesome today, about Roslyn open sourcing. That was pretty cool. Like, huge round of applause on that. I was there. That was amazing. Anders always likes to wow us with the, let's publish the site live. Okay. Great idea. We also have the .NET Framework team. So we did a lot of stuff today with the .NET Framework, .NET Native, Ryujit, SIMD, a lot of really awesome stuff with the .NET Foundation, open ecosystem with a lot of cool libraries that .NET is open sourcing now. That's part of our team too. The other side of our team, though, does a lot of tools inside of Visual Studio, including the Azure tools. So you probably have heard a lot with the Azure tools. Azure SDK 2.3 was released this morning, so go download that. A lot of great tools in there. I'm going to actually talk about another part of our team that does tools specifically targeted at business applications and SharePoint and Office apps. Okay? So today we're going to talk about some of those tools. We're going to build a cloud business app. It's a new template inside of Visual Studio 2013, as of 2013 RTM. We did release some updates to that right around the SharePoint conference, which is earlier this month. So you should have gotten a little notification in Visual Studio going, download these tools. And you're like, why? OK, just fine. Well, I'm going to go through a lot of the cool stuff that we did release. So that was the Office Developer Tools March 2014 update. That's pretty much of a mouthful there, but just Office Developer Tools update. So we're going to talk about that today. So let's talk about business apps today. I think in the keynote, we've been talking a lot about how the perception that users have had in the past around business apps have really changed over the last few years, last many years. They have new expectations on how these applications should work, even business applications. I think that kind of stems from the fact that the App Store was introduced in 2007, 2008, and users are just so, it's a no-brainer for them to just go get an app from an App Store and have these really compelling experiences on their devices anywhere. And so that kind of has translated into the enterprise. How can we as developers, enterprise developers, even just small business developers, how can we go ahead and allow those users that same sort of experience on their own devices with that boring data that we have that they have to use every single day? Okay, my demo is actually going to use SAP data. Whoa, we're going to build a mobile app over SAP data. That's crazy or what? All right, we're going to do that. So, so basically, they really have new ways of working. Mobile, that's kind of no-brainer. Bring your own device to work. I want all this stuff on my device. Why can't I at least have my documents here, all of my data? Who cares if it's in SAP? I want it on my phone. Okay, so Office and SharePoint and the Office 365 app platform itself has really embraced that App Store kind of model, that acquisition, that easy acquisition and trust that a user has when they download an app, and has really kind of extended that to the Office platform itself. Now, gone are the days of us trying to surf the internet for the best VBA add-in possible that's not going to format my machine. Okay? If there's a whole trust model here, there's a whole application lifecycle that the administrator can be in charge of. Okay? So the other thing that I think is really cool as a developer, I mean, I've been a business application developer for many, many years. And the fact that Office has now embraced the web standards with the new app model, if you're building web applications today and you were always afraid of that thing called SharePoint, I don't know how it works, it's complicated, Now, as a web developer, it's very standards-based, especially a lot of the new APIs. We just are in preview right now. I mean, you can use these APIs from any platform, okay? It's a REST-based, OData, JSON, these are things that we are used to as web developers, and so if you're used to working with those technologies, you can translate that knowledge that you have and start building apps for Office and SharePoint. So what is the Office 365 platform? So we have many technologies for building apps for applications for Office. Okay, so we have VBA, we have VSTO. Those are still viable technologies, by the way, for what they do. But when we're talking about web applications, we're talking about the whole variety, the whole spectrum of Office itself, the Office apps itself, be that the online web apps or the client apps. We want to be able to have these contextual apps run anywhere, okay, on any device. And so that's the key of these applications on this new platform. So of course, there needs to be these robust APIs that you can utilize inside of your applications. The discovery, as I mentioned, that discovery channel is very important. And there's not just a public store, though. There's also a corporate store. It's very important for enterprises to control the applications that the users use. And so there's a concept of a corporate store as well. Obviously, I work for Visual Studio, so I want you to use VS, but there's a lot of flexible tools that you can use to build these types of applications. Okay? And, of course, we are hosting in Azure. Okay? So they're cloud-ready applications. You can deploy to the cloud, use HTML5, and all the web goodness that you get with these RESTful APIs. What's an app? Well, I mentioned an app is really just at the core. An app is one web page plus a manifest. Okay, that's what an app is. The manifest, all that is it's just this little piece of information that tells SharePoint where your app is and how to authenticate to it. Your app itself runs completely outside of the SharePoint process. Okay, so your apps are never going to be able to take down the SharePoint farms anymore. That's isolated, completely isolated. Okay, so if an app starts misbehaving, the SharePoint, itself is going to be able to run smoothly for the rest of the users. Okay, so you're not going to affect any of that. Now that's kind of like the basic web app. Now, what happens behind that web app is totally up to you. Today we're going to build on this template inside of Visual Studio that helps you create an end-tier, end-to-end web application that works with multiple data sources and creates a HTML5 JavaScript-based web application that we're going to host inside of Office 365. So what does that look like? Because there's a lot of other moving pieces behind a business application. Typically, it's not just one page with JavaScript and HTML5. Although you can write a lot of cool productivity apps that way that are small like that. But typically, you have a lot of data sources that you need to traverse, run business rules around, processing, and that sort of thing. And so a cloud business app is really you can think of it as just a hosted Azure website, or IIS. It can be on-premise as well. Okay? And what happens is when the user goes to acquire your application, they go to the SharePoint store or the Office store. That returns the manifest that tells the app, tells SharePoint where the application is. It uses an OAuth handshake to handshake between the permissions so that you can be authorized or give permission for the app to run. And then from there, that's your web application. This is all just standard web application happening. You can use ADO.NET, OData, custom data sources that talk to your service layer. You're creating services, OData services using JSON-Lite to return that data back to the client. And the client is a modern browser. It's HTML5 and JavaScript. So because business, it's tough for an enterprise or a small business to fund many different types of client development typically with these applications. And usually when we're just browsing and looking up data and editing data and working with data, HTML5 is a perfectly good solution, and it works across a breadth of devices. Okay, so that's what we're going to build. All right. Oh, and by the way, it's not just about talking to your own service layer. You still have the REST and CSOM APIs that you could talk directly to SharePoint as well if you need directly from the client. Okay, and we're going to actually do some document manipulation, and we'll do some of that as well. So you're not required to go around into your service layer to do that, but that's where most of your business logic is going to lie. So in in Visual Studio, we have many templates for building these types of applications. So I kind of want to go through and say, like, here's why you would use one or the other. Okay, so we have this concept of a SharePoint app. We have an Office app as well, but that's just the client piece. A SharePoint app can be an MVC, an ASP.NET MVC or web forms project at its core, but it has a SharePoint project associated with it in the solution. And so that's kind of like your container for packaging all the features and that sort of thing. It also has all the resource configuration, and it has the manifests in it. So who's seen this project type before? It's just the SharePoint app type. Okay. The new type that we introduced is the Cloud Business App. So this is a little bit more, visually, you design your data sources visually, and you kind of code what you need to at the end. So all the plumbing is handled for you. It's very prescriptive on how it builds this application. It's an end-tier project. It has a service layer. It has an HTML5 single-page app, responsive design client ready to go. So you're going to be working more in a design experience, okay? And what's happening under the scenes is this application is being created for you. Now, there's still a bunch of code hooks, and we're going to write some code today because it wouldn't be build without writing some code, right? So just keep in mind, assembly required. You do whatever you want. This is just your basic MVC web forms app. You can party on, do whatever you want. This Cloud Business App is really going to be laid out specifically for you to build apps that work with data, and all that boring plumbing code is written for you. So here's kind of a visual example of the difference. So there is your SharePoint project, and here is your Cloud Business App. Okay, so you have that HTML5. You have the service layer. That can be in Visual Basic or C#. That's your .NET service layer. And then there's your SharePoint project as well. So there's a mix of technologies here. You got JavaScript and HTML5 on the client, and you got your .NET middle tier. Okay. All right, so I don't like slides. I like going through them fairly quickly. So I'm going to do the rest of this talk in all demos. Hopefully we can get to the slides in the end, the resources. But this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to suck in some SAP data. Anybody work with SAP before? Okay, some folks. NetWeaver Gateway is what we're going to be communicating with. So NetWeaver allows us to access SAP data over an OData endpoint. Okay? We handle all the handshaking and authorization and that sort of stuff, and we know how to talk to SAP data as a first-class data source. We're also, though, going to use multiple data sources. I have some product documents. I'm going to create some surveys, and I have these documents for these products in SharePoint. The products themselves lie in SAP and our customers. But I actually want to create some new data as well. I want to create surveys. So the scenario is we're a distributor of devices, and we have customers that sell these products, and we're going to go out to the stores, and we're going to fill out a little survey and see how the stores are presenting our products, whether the display is clean, where the shelf placement is, who the sales rep is, that kind of thing. So we're going to do like little surveys. So this is also going to be deployed into Office 365. Okay, so the whole entire back end of it, though, like our service layer itself, is actually in Azure itself. So, or we could host it wherever we want, but we like you to host it in Azure. So SQL Azure and an Azure website. So that's the idea. All right? Now, I'm going to build a pretty fully functional app, and usually it only takes about 15 minutes, but I have an hour. So we're also going to start customizing it and really kind of get into some of the JavaScript and coding and that kind of stuff. All right? So who in the room is not a developer? Not the sound guy, that's all right. That's okay, dude. You have to sit through it, though. So good, so I'm glad. So let's get started. I think I'm on 7 here. All right, so we've got Visual Studio. I mentioned I have the March 2014 Office Developer Tools update. It will nag you here if its notification says, click me, then do it, and it will load those tools for you. All right, so we're going to just do a new project. You notice that where we are is we're sitting here under the Office and SharePoint node apps. Okay, so we have 3 project types. One is the client type. This is the app for Office. Here's the 2 that we were comparing. That is the app for SharePoint. We can start with our own web application. And here's the Cloud Business app. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a Cloud Business app. So let's call this Build Surveys. All right, the first thing it's going to ask me is it's going to ask me, where is my developer site? Now, in order to start building apps for SharePoint and Office, is we're going to want a developer site to start, playing around with this stuff. So it's actually pretty easy to sign up, particularly if you are already an MSDN subscriber. If you're an MSDN subscriber, you actually already have a benefit. You just need to go redeem it. Okay, just like your Azure benefit, you'll see activate your Azure benefit. It's like Office 365 subscription. Okay, so there's a developer account right there. So if you have an MSDN subscription, you're good to go. If you already have, an enterprise license or small business or whatever, you can actually configure a SharePoint site for development. Okay, otherwise you can do a free trial. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways that you can get started. All right, so the site that I have here is just got a simple product document library. It's actually got some current documents sitting in it right here. And we're going to build an app. The difference between a dev site and a non-dev site is you can actually side load these apps so that we can go ahead and debug them. Okay, so you need to enable side loading. All right, so let me copy this. Hold on, let me copy this. So I realize that was another one. There we go. We want to work against this site. Okay, and so this is going to create our project structure for us, the server, the client, and will also contain the SharePoint project itself. And the first thing we need to think about when we're building a cloud business application is the data sources. So we start with data in a cloud business app. It's about business apps or about data. Okay, so here it's asking, okay, you want to create a new table? We can start modeling data, start modeling SQL Server data. We can deploy it to any version of SQL Server, all the way back to, I think, 2005 we support. Or we can start connecting to current data sources. So let's go ahead and attach to an external data source. And I mentioned we now have SAP support. That's new as of March. Okay, so I'm going to connect to SAP, and if all goes well, that's the fastest type in the world. Yes. Okay, so that's where our SAP data source is being hosted at the moment. So we have SAP NetWeaver Gateway running. Okay, so here are the entities that are being exposed to that service. Okay, now, if you know anything about SAP, you probably know which entities to go pick. I know nothing really about SAP, except that my products and customers are in here somewhere. So product is probably a good place to start. So let's go in here, and you notice you can now see the related entities. So I'm like, that's probably business partner, products. Okay, so you start to get the idea. You can explore all the properties on an entity, and anything that you have selected show up in the selected window here. Okay, so that's kind of the idea. You can also browse the data, and that will pull down the OData feed. So that's just the feed of data. So I'm like, yeah, those look like products. Okay, sounds good. Got it. All right, so I've got product and business partner. I'm going to call this SAP data. Okay, so you end up spending a pretty decent amount of time in the data modeler, because the data modeler is where you actually are going to do most of your business rules actually land in here, okay, on the service. Anytime you're writing your business rules, you're actually writing an OData service on the server. And so no matter what client, regardless of whether it's this client or another client that hits the service, your business rules will run, your authentication will run, all of that stuff. Well, the first thing I want to do with Business Partner is it came in the order of what was defined in the feed itself, and that's kind of not how I want it. So I'm just going to reorder it A to Z, and that will put the Business Partner ID at the top. I also want to kind of move a little bit around, because when you change this order, you're not actually changing the order in the data source itself. You're changing the order in just here in the model. And so when we create screens, there's some templates we'll use, and it just uses this defined order. So I just want to kind of do that. Also notice that it read the SAP feed. There are annotations in that feed on what these strings types, what they really are. They are an email address. So we went ahead, and we're not just looking at the fact that you named a field email address. There is an actual annotation on the feed. And we go ahead and say, oh yeah, okay, we know that that's an email address. And we set that as the business type. So I'm just going to kind of move things up a little bit. Let's see, kind of get the email address up here, maybe. And then same thing with phone number. I'll move that up to this one. Okay, so we're going to see this at the top of our screen. Okay, so yeah, and we can actually do all sorts of things in here. Like one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to this perspective. So this is the server perspective, but over on the client's perspective, there are different properties you can set. For instance, like the summary property itself. What is basically the identification of this record, okay? The ID probably isn't a good one for the user, so good use company name. Also, we can go ahead and uncheck things so that they just don't display on screens by default, okay? That kind of thing. Same thing with product over here. Same idea. I'm going to just move the name up a little bit. Let me go for server side. Move the name up a little bit. And yeah, in the category probably. All right, and then the other thing I'm going to do is you notice the price. Okay, the price came over as a decimal, but I want to actually display it as money. Okay, so that's, no, I'm not changing the data source at all. I'm just changing the model. Okay, so now we'll see that as the correct money, and we can go ahead and change the currency code and all of that stuff if we wanted to. All right. Now we can also go ahead and program custom validation and all sorts of stuff is required, those sorts of things. Inside of this designer, there's a whole entire set of methods that you can tap into. This is the query and update pipeline. This is where you can do a lot of your processing of the data itself. And we'll get into some of that in a little teeny bit. All right, so now that I've got those things, let's just create a screen really fast. And actually, I'm going to go back over to the business partner, and maybe I don't want it a business partner, it's really a customer to me. So I'm just going to change it to say customer, okay? And the collection itself, customers, let's just do that. All right, that'll make it sounds a little bit better. All right, so now we can go back and let's just create a screen. So screens, right click, add a screen. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just create a common screen set. This is a screen set that allows you to browse and search for and edit and add data, okay? It creates all the screens for you in one shot. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that off of our customers real quick, okay? Okay. All right, so before I do anything, let's just go ahead and run this, F5. All right, I didn't write any code yet at all. I just pointed at some data, pointed at some screens. I gotta log in. I can type pretty fast. Whew, yeah. It's Katana. No, it's not. Okay, so what's going on this is the very first time. I did file new project. It's uploading the app for SharePoint. It grabbed a client ID. That's the client ID that I was mentioning that uses that authorization. SharePoint's like, here's the client ID so I know who you are. Now what the interesting thing is like, yes, it's me. Now it asks for the trust, all right? So the first time a user would install your app, it would also ask for certain permissions. It's just, SharePoint's just asking me if I trust my own local host, which is oh so funny sometimes, but sure. Working on it. Did you notice the t-shirt? The mic kind of messed up the middle of it. Now what it's doing is it's going to redirect back to localhost, and now I can debug. Okay, so now I'm running on localhost, and if all is well, here is all of our data from SAP. Okay, in the order of which it came down the feed. We can change that later. I can actually, I use this is a surface. I can go ahead and just touch it. So everything is touch enabled, all right? So it's touch first, it's really mobile first, okay? But I'm actually on a pretty large form factor. I could create more columns and that sort of thing if I wanted. And as you're on a smaller device, the columns will collapse and you can go this way, all right? So that's the idea. That's that responsive design that you kind of get right out of the box. The other thing, let's see, let's do F12. Our developer tools, because we're at a developer conference. Let's take a look at inspect some of these elements. You'll see that, there we go, there's the telephone. Okay, so that's the telephone. And when we go in and edit, all right, we'll see the same idea. Let's select the input and you'll see there is the type tell, the HTML5 type. Okay, so now if I type in a non-telephone, right, I get the validation. That's not a right telephone. So that's what you get out of the box of the business. There's a bunch of different types of business types, okay? And we are writing all of this. This is a single-page app, but we're using that HTML5 in the right way. And so we tried to make it so that all the generated, HTML5 and JavaScript that we have was actually pretty easy to debug if you need it, okay? And we're going to write our own. We're going to see how we can customize the DOM a little bit. All right. Pretty cool? Cool so far? All right. Oh, I got a clap? Sweet! I haven't even done anything yet. Sweet. Okay, love it. All right, well, maybe that was a clap from the 5 SAP people. Okay, that's a better interface, I think, than you get. No offense, SAP. Okay, so, yeah, I don't want to piss off the partners. All right, so now what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create these surveys. So we got our customers, we have some products in the data model. Let's actually create some more data. Let's go back over to our data. What I'm going to need to do now is I'm going to add a table itself. Okay, so now I'm going to start modeling my own application data. So I am going to be creating a schema this time. All right, so we'll create a survey. All right, so what do we want to capture about a survey? We're going to need probably the sales rep. Okay, this is a salesperson. And we also have a concept of this person business type as well. And so what's really cool is because this is a Office 365 or SharePoint app, the person will be able to show the identity of the logged in user. All right, and so you'll be able to see, like if you're actually signed in to Lync, you'll actually get that people presence and all that stuff too. Which I am actually signed in to Lync, I think. Yeah. Okay, so that's me. I'm signed into Lync. All right, so what else do we want to do? Let's do the survey stuff. So display cleanliness. I could store that as a string, but I think what I'm going to do is store that as an integer instead. And I'll show you what we're going to want a static list of choices on this case. All right, so and then do shelf placement. Okay, we could create more and more and more and more, but you get the idea. All right, so in order to create these little choice lists, I actually have some of them here. The display cleanliness. I'm actually just going to copy this from Excel because, hey, it's an Office demo, right? So what we do is we go over to our choice list link here in the property sheet, and now I can just paste all those in here. Okay, you could type them in if you want. It just takes longer. All right, and usually, your spec writers usually put some of these choices in Excel, and we figured, hey, this is an easy way to just copy it right in the system. Okay, now this is not a lookup table. We are going to now need a lookup table for our products and our customers now. So one thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to add a relationship, right? So we have product has one-to-many. Now, what we're doing is we're creating a relationship across data sources, all right? So that's why we're getting this dotted line. Now, if I had created another internal entity and connected it, it would obviously have the referential integrity and that sort of thing. And you would be able to specify the on-delete behavior and all that. But because we're doing the across data sources, what the Cloud Business App does for us is just kind of maintain that relationship for us. It can filter, it can show the related records. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm saying, yeah, that product ID from SAP, go ahead and put it as the foreign key inside of my survey. All right. Okay, and the same idea I'm going to need to do for customer. Okay, and same idea, store the business partner ID. Okay, now documents. We have these documents to products, right? So let's go ahead and add our third data source, which is SharePoint itself. Now, because we are a SharePoint app, it goes ahead and says, hey, is this probably where you're developing? Yeah. When we go ahead and deploy later, we get to specify what the host web is later. And so, your product, this is kind of like a copy of your product documents, really. And we use the user's identity, the logged in user's identity there. All right, so now it's querying SharePoint now, and it's saying, hey, what do you got? So this is all of the the lists. Okay, we separate the lists out from the document libraries. Okay, so these are our document libraries, and you see all of the default document libraries, but I have this product documents as well. One of the things that I've done is I've added this SKU column to the product document library. Okay, so the SKU column is just a string. It's just going to hold the product SKU. All right, so that's already sitting there. So I'm going to call this, instead of build data, we named that site build, I'm going to call it SharePoint data. Okay, so I just need to make sure I select that, and so these are all the selected. User information list is always connected to every single list inside of SharePoint, so that automatically will come down, so that's related. So you get the changed by and that kind of stuff. Okay, so there's the product document. Now we need to create the relationship to our products, and we can actually create it to our surveys too. So surveys can look at product documents as well, because we have the ID. So product, okay, so now it's asking me, I can't modify SAP, I can't store the foreign keys, or I can't modify SAP, and I can't modify the SharePoint schema itself. So it's asking me like, okay, what's the common column, and that's why I added that SKU before, okay? So the SKU is the product ID. Okay, so now we've got product, we got many product documents. We can actually go ahead and do it to survey as well. Same idea, the survey's product.product ID is the SKU. Okay, so we can basically see these documents from multiple screens in multiple ways. All right, so kind of makes sense to me, the data model. I always forget something, but let's make sake. Okay, so let's see, got product, yeah. Just wanted to make sure I set the summary property. So here's the thing. A summary property is important to set on screens. Instead of product ID, I want it to be name, oh, sorry, not price, excuse me. So that, you could see the product name instead of its ID on all of these places. And I'm pretty sure I did do customer, but just to make sure, yeah, company name. All right, so now that I've got that done and the data model looks beautiful to me, I'm going to go ahead and create some screens. So now we're going to create some screens on products and on our surveys. But before I do that, maybe we want to sort the products, and maybe we want to sort the customers, or maybe we want to filter them, or maybe we want to do like some sort of queries or something like that, because it's not all about just data and screens. It's about filtering and creating these queries too for users, too much data. So before we create the screen on customer, let's go ahead and create its query, or on product, we'll do. So we've got product. I'm going to add a query, just right-click, add a query. And this is a very basic query designer, but it's actually very powerful. And so I'm going to just call this sorted products. I could add filters, okay? It does, singles and groups and all sorts of stuff here. I don't really want to filter this guy. I just want to add a sort, okay? And we're going to add a sort by, let's add a sort by its name, ascending. The other thing you can do, though, is you can go into code and you can go ahead and write, the link query of the world here. As long as it's going to return an entity type of product, you can go ahead and write link in here. Okay, so that's just, and you can actually combine it. I could create a whole set of filtering through the designer, and then I have query passed by ref, so it's already sitting ready, to be added onto in code. All right, so that's your developer escape hatch, I call it, on all the designers as the right code drop down. All right, so now that we have the sorted products, let's go back and create a couple screen sets here. So I'm going to do a common screen set for the sorted products. So now you'll see all the queries are listed here as well for you to choose from. And you'll notice that it also now includes all of the relationships, so I can bring those in as well. So I'm going to go ahead and bring all of those guys in. And let's just, instead of call it sorted products, we'll just call it products. Okay, and now we're going to obviously need a screen set for our surveys itself too. So I'm going to add another set for our surveys, and I'll go ahead and include the documents as well. Okay, so the couple things I want to kind of tweak a little bit on maybe our products. There's the browse products. So this is going to list all of the products in a tile list. Okay, so this is the control that's by default set up as a tile list. And that's when we saw when I hit F5, you saw the customers, those were tiles. Because as the form factor shrinks, the tiles they stop flowing horizontally and go vertically for you automatically. However, you can choose from a couple different types of list controls. A list itself, a very flat list, which would be good for very small devices, maybe just one-liner type of choices. Or you can do a whole table layout, which is your more HTML table, where it's columns and rows. Okay, so for the products itself, I'm going to leave it as a tile list, but I'm actually going to delete the product ID. Probably didn't need that. I do want to show, there's this product pick URL. It looks tasty and tempting, and maybe it is an image. This is kind of like exploratory too sometimes with your data sources. If they're enterprise data sources, sometimes you're not exactly sure. Product pick URL probably should be an image, but we'll see. It's SAP, so you never know. Okay, so let's do that. Also, you'll notice that it set us up for some styling too, so you can change some of the style. Like the font style here is large. You can control what large, normal, and small means through CSS, actually. But I'm just going to set that back to normal in our case. All right, the other thing is I noticed on our surveys, let's go back over here on our browse surveys, we have display cleanliness and shelf placement. I don't want to show that there. What I really want to show is the sales rep. I also want to show the product. I also want to show the customer. It's probably more important. Actually, the product should probably be like up here, and the customer here. And we could do created and created by and drag them all over. I could now say, you know what, let's do this as a table. Let's show it as a table. Actually, let's go ahead and why not put display cleanliness and shelf placement back on here? Fine. Okay, so we have more columns and rows now. And because I'm showing a lot of the data, I might want to set the tap action, so when I click on a row, when I touch a row or click on it, that it opens up the edit screen right away. You'll notice that what happens when you use these common screen sets, and you can create these individually you want, it glues them all together. So you'll see that there's an add button, and the add tap action, okay, there's a tap action here. There's a bunch of tap actions that you can choose from that are all centered around data, okay, itself. So you'll see that the surveys are here in our view model. That's the surveys on the left-hand side. You'll see that all of these common methods are available to you without you having to write the code yourself. Obviously, there's still write my own method, so you can write your own code, but we kind of give you these hey, you might probably want to edit this thing. You probably want to add a new one. Okay, so here you go. So in my case, though, I'm going to set the tap action for the table. Okay, instead of view, I actually want to just forget the view. I just want to go right into edit. All right, so we're just going to change that. And it's going to say, hey, we're going to just use the current screen that you have, so it recognizes that. And you can go say, no, I want to use a new screen, and you can create a new screen from here if you want. All right. I think we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and hit F5 again. So now we've got 3 different screen sets working with all of this different data. Let's see how this works. All right, so let's log in. Okay, so you notice that actually we didn't have to retrust the app again because we've already done it once. Now, if we change the permissions, which I'm going to do in a bit, it would ask us again. But we didn't mess around with any of the permissions that it needs. So there's our customers. But now you'll notice that we have navigation to our products and our surveys here. So let's take a look at products real quick. This is still a tile list. Oh man, it doesn't look like our images came through. Let's investigate. I should touch this thing. Why? Well, if you look at the product URL, what's coming down is actually a relative URL and not the absolute URL. And so we're going to need to write a little bit of code to fix that up, so we'll do that in a bit. But you'll also notice now we've got this, product documents, okay, copy master. I'm trying to find, let's see, which one. We had the which one was it? It was probably, I'm trying to remember this one, I think. Maybe. That's the 1020. So people were messing with some of my data. 101. Well, let's see. 1000. That's all right. I mean, I just had some current documents that were already 107, but that's all right. It doesn't matter. We can go over here. We can say add. You know what? I'm going to just go ahead and upload an existing file. So I think we've got some here, here. All right, we'll just pretend that it was the right product SKU. But it's actually going to go ahead and say, you know what, we'll stick the product SKU for the product ID, and now you'll see that, hey, we've got this. There's the specs right there. If I click on it, I actually have the client applications installed on the machine, so we'll open up the client app. If you didn't, it would just open Office Online, because it's contacting the server. The other thing we could do, actually, which is kind of fun, is we could just say, all right, let's create a new file, and this will actually go ahead and just automatically take us in to the online version, and we can say, all right, let's just change the name instead of book one, like my cool spreadsheet. Okay, we could just stick some data in here. All right, and that's it. Like, so now actually, because it saves automatically, I know, it's weird, but get over it. I had to get over that, but all right, and so now we'll see, there they are. So here's a 102, okay? I don't know what 107 was, but there you go, okay? So that's back in our document library. The SKU is there, and now when we go back to our surveys, we'll see that. Okay, so that's pretty cool. All right, so we've got a couple things to fix. Let's actually go ahead and add a survey now. All right, so we'll go to our surveys. Okay, so we got none, so I need to add. Actually, I should just go ahead and click the add button. All right, so here's where the people comes in, right? So as I start typing, we'll see me in here. There's probably a couple other people here. Steve Lasker's in here. I wonder what's Jim maybe. Yeah, Jim is in here. I don't think we have anybody with the same name, but you would get a list of those. Okay, Jay Schmelzer, that's my boss. We'll put him in here. His display cleanliness, I don't know. He's a pretty clean guy, actually, so. These are the choice lists that we set, the static list. And now you'll notice here's the product coming from SAP. All right, so we'll do Notebook Basic, and here's the customers. All right. Now they're not sorted, so we should probably use the sorting. We probably shouldn't put the IDs on the screen, but you get the idea. All right, so now when we save, we got that. We got Jay Schmelzer sitting here. He is not online, so that's why he's showing in kind of the gray there. Okay, so he's not online. All right, so cool. Except what would be really nice is if we could kind of maybe utilize some of the social aspects of Office 365 and SharePoint so that when a new survey is created, we want to notify people who care in the news feed. Okay, so we just go ahead and post into the news feed when a survey is added or updated or that kind of thing. So let's see how we can do some of that. So we also need to fix our images. And Word's still trying to open, but that's okay, I don't care. I don't care. You get the idea. Okay, so let's go back to our service side here, and we'll have the surveys. And you'll notice on the server perspective here, we have this social area here. Whoop. Word is still doing stuff. Okay, I finally figured it out. Thank you, Word. Thank you for whatever. Okay, we have this social. So I'm going to go ahead and post when an item is created. When a survey is created, post it. Also, we could say, post when updated as well if you care about looking at, say, hey, when any of these fields, just check off the fields that you're interested in change, then we'll go ahead and stick a notification in there for you. So I'm going to do just when we add, not when we update. The other thing you'll need is that summary property. And right now, a sales rep is probably not a very good indicator of like a survey because a lot of sales reps are going to do a lot of surveys. And so how do we identify the survey to a human being? Let's create a computed property to do that because I'd rather show the product name. Okay, so let's call this social summary. Okay, and it will be a string, but it's computed. So we're going to write our first, C#, this is on the service side, code. All right, if I can handle it. So if, let's see, we're going to have an if statement here. If this is the survey itself, you notice we're in class survey. So if the product is not null, oops, null. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and say, all right, the result of this calculated field is really this .product.name. All right? Okay, so now all I have to do is back over on our survey here, is set that property. So the summary property now should be the social summary. All right, cool. All right, so the other thing we have to do is fix those images, but let's see if this social summary thing works. Okay, so now we're going to actually get, we're going to be taking, because we made a change to the service side now, we actually are going to reinstall that app, and so that's what's happening there. So it's doing a little reinstallation again. If we had just changed the client, it wouldn't have done anything, but it needs new permissions to be able to post into those newsfeed. Okay. All right, so that's what it's saying now. Now it's saying let it access basic, let it create document libraries, let it edit documents, allow application to user profiles. So there's a little bit let it share permissions with other users. So it's got a couple more, things to ask for. All right, so now you'll actually see the little news feed up here in the corner. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the surveys. And we'll add a new one. And we'll go ahead and put me in it this time. Okay, Beth, I'm not very clean apparently. Or where I went, it wasn't very clean. All right. So now it should actually be Notebook Basic 18 survey was created. So there, it created the survey. Notice I'm online here. That's me, Invariator Energy. And now we've got the news feed. And so this is in the app web, the news feed for this application. Just pull it up. There it is. Okay, so we've got a little picture lag here. That's just from the user profile. But now it says I created the survey, Notebook Basic 18. All right, and if you go into it, it'll actually deep link back into the actual survey itself. All right. Okay, so it has deep linking and all that stuff, so you don't have to worry about that. Cool. All right. All right, so let's start doing a little bit. That was a minimal amount of C# code. We're actually going to go back and start writing a little bit more business rules. But let's flip over to the client and fix up the image URL. Okay, so we're going to start doing some JavaScript programming, just some minor tweaks here and there. So we have a pretty good looking, decent looking application so far. It's not like absolutely beautiful, but it's totally functional. Okay, that's the idea, just get you to the functional point fast. All right, so let's go back into our products here. We're going to browse those products. And we were having a little issue with this product pick URL being a relative URL, and so we're going to need to append the absolute URL in here. All right, so there's a couple ways that we can modify the screen with code. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take, the image control. I want it to still be an image control. I just need to make a change to its data before it loads the control. So there's a little write code button up here on the screen designer as well. And when you have a control selected, you can go ahead and overwrite what's called a post-render method. Okay, so the post-render, so this thing is going to allow us to take the element. This is the DOM element, the point at which it's inside the DOM. You saw when I was doing the F12 debugger tools, that's the DOM. Okay, it gives you that element that you're on. And the content item, which is that thing that was listed right in the middle of the screen designer. That's the content item. The content item .value is the piece of data. Okay, so I'm going to try and write this code pretty fast because we're running out of time. So that's about as fast as it goes. So all I'm doing here is I'm prepending the actual server on top of the content item .value. And the reason why I have a small set timeout there is because I have to wait for the data bind to finish. Now, all of this data is actually loaded completely asynchronously. Okay, I don't know if you noticed the little spinning thing. So data's coming in asynchronously, and so I'm just waiting for that data just to come and make sure that that image, the source, is just set after the data is loaded. All right. There's another thing I want to do to kind of visually change the UI a bit. On the surveys, that table control, I kind of wanted to show in red if something was a poor survey. All right, so I kind of want to, that's a very common thing to do is highlight cells inside of data grids and things like that, right? Okay, so let's go over to our the browse surveys. Do the same idea. We're going to go into the rows collection, though, here, or the rows, content item, and do post render on that. Okay. And now, in this case, what I'm doing is I'm saying, hey, if the display cleanliness is less than 2, if it's fair or poor, or if it's poor, I guess, add attention, add the class attention. So now we got to put it in a class, okay? I mentioned you can completely modify the look and feel of your apps here because at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of CSS in here, okay? So there's this user customization CSS that we give you that like kind of bubbles up all of the very common things. Here's where your font styles are. Here's where your fonts themselves are. And here's where I'm going to just put in this attention class. So we'll just do something really simple. Let's just change the color to red. Hold on. There we go. All right. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and see how that looks now. So this kind of like very prescriptive way of building a business application will help you out if you're just getting started with JavaScript and HTML5 or trying to think about these productivity apps. We have these big, SaaS systems, and we need to get data into these business productivity apps. This is a good route to go. All right, so let's go to now products. We should have the images displayed now. Yay! Hey, there's some nice looking images now. All right, and then we have our surveys. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add in. Oh, there we go. We've got Beth Massey has got the worst survey in the world. Let's go ahead and change that. You'll notice I used the data bind method. So when the data changes, so does the visualization updates. Okay, so that's how we can do that. Now it's kind of probably a better idea that to personalize this a little bit, I shouldn't probably be able to add Jay Schmelzer as a survey as Beth Massey. So let's put some business rules in, just a couple small business rules in to force the user personalization. So they only see my surveys and I can't enter someone else's. So that's kind of easy to do. We can go into our survey, and all the code you write around business processing is going to happen on this middle tier. So I'm going to do a filter, first of all. The really nice thing about this is that, let's do this. Oops, filter is going to equal, I'm a survey. Okay, S dot, now the sales rep, okay, is equal to this dot application. There's a user object because that's the authenticated user, and it is the type itself. Let's see if I got the type here. There it shows. Is the O365 person info object. Okay, so there's a lot of properties off of there that you can get to. The claims, the email, all of their user profile information. The identity isn't a role, the login name, there's a mobile number. Okay, so person ID is what we're going to use here. That's what's stored as the person itself. So now I'm filtering all of the data out. Anywhere in the application, it's going to hit this filter. This Lambda expression will execute anytime. Okay, the other thing we're going to want to do is go back over here and add in the inserting method. Okay, we're going to make sure that the entities, we're just going to force it. Entity.salesrep is equal to application user person ID. All right, so that will just force it all the time. And we could write business rules around our other data sources as well, okay? So we can write data, business rules over SAP, that sort of thing. I'm just kind of doing it here over the survey itself. All right, so we got business rules, access control. Oh, there was one more thing. We aren't sorting those customers and products on our survey, and it was kind of bugging me. So I'm just going to go back over to the add and edit survey. And also we have these IDs. I should have just marked them as don't display them, but that's okay. All right, and you know what? We could actually just move this stuff around like that, and maybe I don't want the column here. So that kind of thing. Though what we could do is I'm going to add a data item to the screen, and I'm going to bring in this other query. I'm going to do this sorted products here so that we can at least get, I didn't do a sorted customers, but you could. We're going to bring that in here, and then I'm going to take this product, and you'll notice the choices was set to auto, but now we can sort those products. All right, so now we got it. All right, so this is probably the last F5 I can fit in here, so one last thing, because I'm just wanted, for completeness sake, let's put some logos in here, right? You know, let's do brand it a little bit. We can just go ahead and replace the two logos that are kind of canned and built in. You can also change the style sheet. It comes with two style sheets out of the box, a light theme and a dark theme. We can go theme roller. You can party on with your own theme. You can drop that in at your CSS. You can change all of the icons, that kind of stuff if you want. If you're web developers, you probably get it. All right. Okay, so now we should only see the one survey, my survey. Okay, there was a little logo, a little bit better logo. We can also change the startup screen and all that stuff too. But now there's the filter. Now JSchmelzer is not in there anymore, okay? And when we add a new survey, it will only add me. Well, let's go ahead and try that and make sure. All right. And now we've got one that's one column now, okay? So good, middle. If I try to put J in again, I didn't sort customers, but here our products should be sorted now. So there they are sorted, okay? I don't know what these are, but the beam screen sounds cool. Okay, so now even though I put JSchmelzer in there, it says sales rep Beth Massey. He's like, no way, lady, come on, I know who you are. Okay, so that's pretty cool, if you ask me. All right, so I have 5 minutes, and I do want to show one last thing, because I promised somebody who came to the booth today that I would. If I don't get to it, I'll feel bad. So I showed you how to kind of do post-rendering and to take the control that you're handed and change it, but you can actually just completely generate controls yourself. So let's go over to our Browse Survey screen. I want to maybe underneath the table here, I'm going to add new custom control. Now this means what data do you want to pass it? Okay, so I'm going to actually pass it surveys. Yeah, okay. Okay, and now it's a custom control. So we can go in here, and now we can just take over the rendering ourselves. And I think it was this one. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm just creating the control that's going to count the surveys, okay? Just put that at the bottom. Now you can imagine there's widgets all over the place, like jQuery libraries and widgets all over the internet. You can go NuGet package, you can go ahead and add one in here. And this allows you to just say, okay, I'm just going to create my own control, use the content item as the data bind, all right? So now that we've got all that, and as a matter of fact, it was kind of bugging me that a couple things, but a lot of things bug me when I think about doing demos on stage. I'm like, that bugs me. One of the things bugged me is that surveys should start up first so we can change the navigation. Now, you can do a lot just like by doing a browser refresh. If you're just doing like client-side changes, I could just do the browser refresh. So if we go over to our surveys, now you'll see 2 surveys found, okay? So there's that. Now, if I didn't like the look and feel of this at all, we could go and we could change around, as it's still running, we could change around the surveys, you know, how I want it. So if like, you know, let's move the shelf placement up here, and then I'll just save all, and when we restart it, and actually another thing that's bugging me here is this. Just go and say surveys, set as home screen, okay? So now we'll come back to the survey itself. All right, and they should have just flipped the order of those. All right, so that's the idea. So we can do all kinds of customizations there. All right, last 2 minutes, deployment. Because that takes 2 minutes to do, right? Deployment. So let's go back over here. So deployment is, oh, what did we cover? All right, just really quickly, that's all the stuff we covered. All right, got it. All right, what about publishing? You know, because it's like 2 minutes left, what about publishing? I do want to give it a mention. we highly recommend that you do a provider hosted when you're going to be hosting a cloud business application, because then you have complete control over the site itself, the data itself, that sort of thing. All right, so typically you have like a bring your own infrastructure, okay, or it could be an Azure website. There also is an auto-hosted option. This option is to just tell SharePoint to go ahead and auto-provision. In this case, though, you're going to, anytime a user installs the application, you're going to get a separate instance. Okay, so users will have separate instance. Okay, so you do have to take in consideration in a provider-hosted app, possibly multi-tenancy. But as you can see, we throw the user info at you, so you could possibly do that. You have to architect your data for that, or keep that in mind. But auto-hosted app is one instance per installation. Okay, user install. The other, I'm going to mention this, cloud business apps are only these two types of hosting because it has a middle tier and a database. But a SharePoint hosted app can be very simple. It can be just the UI itself. And we recommend to go ahead and use the online version of Visual Studio called Napa that is streamlined to create SharePoint hosted apps. And in fact, Napa is a SharePoint hosted app itself. And so that's kind of like where our tooling story is. Once you're done kind of getting started with Napa, you can go into the full version of Visual Studio. But it's good to just kind of get started online. All right, so when you do the deployment, you go through the deployment wizard. It asks you where do you want to deploy this to, that sort of thing. It will actually create a web deploy package for you. You can go ahead and deploy that. It will also automatically deploy to an Azure website if you have that already hooked up. And then you just take the app part and put that in your corporate catalog, all right? And when you do that, you have a little app store, and all the users will be able to just see those apps. And I've already actually done one. If you just have care to see one already done, we can go back up to the sites up here. Okay, so this is like not my dev site anymore. And I have some sub-sites. Let's see what we got. We've got a couple. Here's where you say add an app. And I think we had SAP listed there. And here is the couple of the demos that we've done. All right, so now you can just add an app to the site, check out the details, that kind of thing. It will take a minute, and here's the trust prompt now. All right, so it'll take a minute to add to the site and that sort of thing. But that's the idea. Okay, so build your business apps. Create multi-device apps for your data sources you have in an enterprise or your business quickly, and that's the idea. So hopefully I convinced you it's not only fast, but it's fun. All right, so in the end, what are the resources we need to give you? So here's just to recap: cloud, mobile, enterprise ready, all right? And really is key about being a web developer. That is the technologies you should already be familiar with today. All right, so get started right there. AKAMS, build SharePoint apps. That will get you the tools for Visual Studio if you don't have them. There are actually a set of great resources out there. I've started a how-to series on Channel 9. So just how-to videos of how to get started. And a lot of this stuff today is in those videos, and I promise to do more. And if you're interested, if you have SAP and you're interested in figuring out how to expose that data through NetWeaver Gateway, the SAP Community Center has a bunch of resources on how to do that. So, all right, I'm out of time. Sorry about that, and thank you very much.